Hey, what's going on, guys? Let's continue our tour around the world of worldwide slasher movies. This time, as you can see by my sign, everybody loves the sign, I've been told. We're going to look at my top 5 South African slasher movies at the moment. I've watched a total of 7 South African slasher movies, and it took me a really long time to whittle my list down to my top 5. So, of course, I had to eliminate 2 slasher movies. And I'm going to show them to you anyway, in case you want to check them out for yourself. The first one, released in the year 2000, directed by Niels Sundstrom, is the movie Slash. It's not that I didn't enjoy this movie. I kind of did, but maybe I wasn't in the mood at the time when I saw it. So I'm going to give it another watch. It's a modern slasher, again, made in the year 2000, about a band named Slash, who has a band member who's got to return home, so he takes his whole band with him. And as you can see, it's set on a farm that this guy's family owned. And when he returns home, he's not alone. The band's not alone. There's a slasher as well. I don't want to give away too much in case you want to see it. It doesn't make my list. It's probably the worst South African slasher movie I watched, but still the 7th best South African slasher movie I ever watched. And number 7 in America would still be a great movie, but number 7 in South Africa, meh. All right. And the other one I dismissed from my list was made in 1987. And it's actually a true slasher movie. It's probably just the most boring and incoherent slasher movie I've ever seen. And that is The Stay Awake. I'll give you one sentence description, kind of a run-on sentence description of this movie, and then you could kind of see why I don't include it on my list. An American serial killer is executed and for some reason returns to take his revenge on a group of people who supposedly live in Europe. But the movie takes place in South Africa. So it's, I think it's a tradition for South African movies where they try to pretend like we're not in South Africa when we make this movie. We're someplace in America, or we're someplace in Europe. A lot of movies on my list that scored higher didn't try to hide their South African roots. They were true to their South African roots, and they were like, hey, we're not making any bones about this. This is not America, it's South Africa. We've got our stories to tell. This one is just a cheap imitation of an American slasher, and they don't do a good job. So it's number 6 on my list of South African slashers. All right, let's get to the meat and potatoes. Get to our top 10 list. We'll start out with 1983's City of Blood. It was directed by Daryl Root. It's a supernatural slasher in which a coroner investigates a series of murders that started actually 3,000 years ago, i.e. the same weapon was used in a murder 3,000 years ago that was used in modern times. It kind of veers into thriller territory, but I think it maintains enough of a slasher vibe to be classified as a slasher movie. Word of warning, though, not really warning, but while the movie's in English, so you don't have to read it, as most of these are, it does take a serious look at race relations in South Africa in the 80s, which were strained, obviously, to say the least. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's true to its roots. It's a South African movie, but you can't go into this half-hearted and only pay attention a little bit, because the movie's trying to say something, and they do say it. So it's a great watch. Thriller / slasher. Again, from 1983. That's City of Blood. All right. Number 4. Released in 2010. Directed by Justin Head. Is Night Drive. And this movie, again, doesn't disguise the fact. I mean, look at the cover. It's not rural America. You can tell this is set in South Africa. It's on a safari in South Africa, so they don't try to hide it. And again, that gets bonus points and why it's high on my list. Higher than, say, Slash, the other modern slasher that I looked at. It's set in Africa. It doesn't try to hide that fact. Doesn't pretend that it's, taking place in the United States. In it, a group of tourists go on a nighttime tour of a nature reserve, and they get stranded when their Jeep breaks down. Then they're set upon by wild animals and a group of men led by a guy who goes by the name of the Hyena Man. As you can see by the blurb on the bottom, this guy who reviewed it said it has a Hostel 2, Hills Have Eyes vibe. I definitely think it reminds me a lot of the Wrong Turn movies. It's kind of like a backwoods slasher film. There's not one individual slasher killer in this movie. You know, the hyena man, has help. But I kind of look at the people that help him as sort of his weapons. So in a sense, it is one guy doing all the killing, even though there are other people helping. It's a great movie. I think you'll thoroughly enjoy it. I had never heard of it until I stumbled onto it. From 2010, it's Night Drive, again directed by Justin Head. The number three movie on my list. It's probably the best movie of the bunch, but it's only my number 3 slasher. And that is Dust Devil, directed by Richard Stanley. This is my favorite South African made movie ever. I think it's incredibly good. I just think it's only my number 3 slasher because I think it's not enough of a slasher to be my favorite slasher. The next 2 on my list are better slasher movies, but this is the best movie of the bunch. It's directed by Richard Stanley, I think I said. It came out in 1992. It's about this guy on the cover, the Dust Devil, who's kind of, I don't know, he's like an avenging angel kind of character where he's, you know, on a quest to kill a bunch of people. I don't want to give away too much of the movie because it's such a good movie. I don't want to spoil it for you. And there's so many different cuts of this movie. It's definitely a thriller. It's definitely a horror movie. It's got some slasher elements to it. Police procedural. Really, really just a great movie. I'm going to stop there talking about it. I think you should see it. But it's kind of hard to see it. This is a German Blu-ray. Doesn't work on Region 1. There's an American DVD that was released as a single disc that shows like the original cut. And then there's a 5-disc set, which includes like a soundtrack and a bunch of other stuff, and also every different cut of the movie. So Richard Stanley, the director, released like 3 different cuts, and there's finally like a director's cut. So if you're going to watch the movie, which is incredibly long, by the way, watch the director's cut. It's available on a disc that goes for like $60 or more, used, way out of print. But worth it. I guess if you're going to spend $60, you hopefully you're going to be entertained, and I definitely think you're going to be entertained by this one. That's Dust Devil from 1992. All right, back to straight slashers. These are slasher movies. What you're here for. It's what I'm here for. My number 2 slasher from South Africa is The Demon. The Demon was released in 1979, directed by Percival Rubens. In this movie, a psychic is called in to investigate a series of murders and soon begins to focus his attention on a killer known as the Demon. And the Demon has already selected his next victim. Again, this is such a good movie. It stars like Cameron Mitchell, and the cover is really awesome. If you check out the hand with the knives on it, on the fingers, like a glove with knives on the finger. A glove killer with knives on his finger. Wonder where we saw that. This was made in when? 1979? Pretty influential movie then, I guess. Again, this is The Demon. And my only knock on it is it could have taken place anywhere in the world, not just South Africa, you know? So it's another movie that tries to hide the fact that it's South African. But that's okay, because it's a really good movie. I don't want you to make any bones about it. They're pretending they're somewhere in America, I guess. Such a good movie. I'm not being enthusiastic about it. It's so good. Here, the back art is a little better. It kind of gives you an idea of what's going on. You see our killer, you see other people involved, and you get a better slasher vibe on the back of this. The description says what you are about to see is one of the most chilling and spine-tingling life and death struggles ever filmed. All right, I wouldn't go that far, but it's a really good movie. Supernatural and human slasher. Really think you should check it out. My number 2 slasher is The Demon from 1979. And now my number 1 all-time South African slasher movie from 1989, This is Return of the Family Man. This has the plot of any 1980s slasher movie. And that's a good thing. That's not a knock. Again, released in 1989, directed by John Merlovsky. In this movie, a group of people decide they want to go to an abandoned house, which was the site where an insane man killed his family years ago. It also happens to be the same night that the aforementioned killer escapes custody and decides to return home. Where have we heard this story before? A lot of places. But this is so good. Extremely high body count. Like more than 25 people. I lost count. If you count family and there's so many people killed in this movie in some amazing ways. You would, if you close your eyes, if they didn't tell you this is from South Africa, you'd be like, this was made in America, and you would love it. You'd be like, oh my God, an undiscovered American slasher movie from 1989. Why haven't I heard of it? Well, you haven't heard of it because it doesn't have a legit DVD release, as far as I know. It's available on VHS and, of course, on bootleg. You can get the VHS on eBay. It's readily available, and it is, for my money being $10 for this bootleg, my favorite South African slasher movie. And I'm going to do a top 100, or at least top 50 international slasher movies, and this one is going to be extremely high on my list. I'm always fascinated by how other countries take our slasher movies and interpret them. And I think this movie does such a great job of not only mimicking our slasher movie, but I think it, at the same time, says a lot about slasher movies. And it's over the top. Like I said, more than 25 people killed. It's phenomenal. If you're looking for a slasher movie, not even a South African slasher movie, but an undiscovered gem of a slasher movie, I can't recommend Return of the Family Man enough. It's amazing. Go see it. Come back here and comment and thank me. Great movie. Directed by John Merlovsky, if I didn't say it already. 1989's Return of the Family Man. My number one South African slasher movie. And I don't think that's ever going to change, so we can go ahead and cross out that at the moment part, because this is going to be number one for a very long time. All right, next time we're going to do my top 5 Mexican slasher movies. If you haven't seen a Mexican slasher movie, they are bat guano crazy. All right, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like my channel. And comment below if you've seen any other South African slashers, because I'm always looking for more. And if you disagree or agree with what I'm saying, let me know about it. Thanks for coming. Bye.